Good day everyone. I am here to discuss about the evolution of operating system. I am Jelmar Nator and let's get started. An operating system is a system software that manages computer hardware, software resources, and provides common services for computer programs. Operating systems are found in many devices that contain a computer, from cellular phones and video game consoles to web servers and supercomputers. The first operating systems were developed in the 1950s when computers could only run one program at a time. Later, in the following decades, computers began to include more and more software programs, sometimes called libraries, that came together to create the start of today's operating system. Now, let me discuss about the history timeline of operating system. The evolution of operating system is directly dependent on the development of computer systems and how users use them. Now, let's talk about the early evolution of the operating system. In 1943 to 1945, ENIAC was the most powerful calculating device built today, built during World War II by the United States by the American physicist John Moseley and the American engineer J. Presper Eckert Jr. and their colleagues at the Moore School of Electrical Engineering. It is designed specifically for computing values for artillery range tables. It lacks some features that would have made it a more generally useful machine. (1949) EDSAC and EDVAC. EDVAC was delivered to the Ballistic Research Laboratory in 1949. Functionally, EDVAC was a binary serial computer with automatic addition, subtraction, multiplication, program division, and automatic checking with an ultrasonic serial memory, capacity of 1000 to 34-bit words. EDVAC's average addition time was 864 microseconds and its average multiplication time was 2900 microseconds. The EDSAC replica project aims to reconstruct one of the most important early British digital computers. EDSAC ran its first program on 6 May 1949 and was soon pressed into service to support research in the university. (1949) BINAC. Binary Automatic Computer or the BINAC was an early electronic computer designed for Northrop Aircraft Company by the Eckert-Moseley Computer Corporation in 1949. The binary automatic computer had no provisions to store decimal digits or characters, but was able to perform high-speed arithmetic on binary numerals. 1951 UNIVAC by Remington. On June 14, 1951, the U.S. Census Bureau dedicates UNIVAC, the world's first commercially produced electronic digital computer. UNIVAC, which stood for Universal Automatic Computer, was developed by J. Presper Eckert and John Moseley, the makers of ENIAC, the first general-purpose electronic digital computer. This giant computer, which used thousands of vacuum tubes for computation, were the forerunners of today's digital computers. 1952 IBM 701. The IBM 701 electronic data processing machine, known as the Defense Calculator while in development. It is the first commercial scientific computer and its first series production mainframe computer, which was announced to the public on April 29, 1952. It was invented and developed by Gerrier Haddad and Nathaniel Rochester based on the IAS machine at Princeton. 1954 to 1957, Fortran was developed. Fortran came to subsequently dominate scientific computing. It has been in use for over 6 decades in computationally intensive areas such as numerical weather prediction, finite element analysis, computational fluid dynamics, geophysics, computational physics, crystallography, and computational chemistry. Now, let's move on to the operating system in 1960s. 1961, the dawn of mini-computers. It is a class of smaller computers that was developed in the mid-1960s and sold for much less than mainframe and mid-sized computer from IBM and its direct competitors. Minis were designed for control, instrumentation, human interaction, and communication switching as distinct from calculation and record keeping. 1962. Compatible Time-Sharing System. The Compatible Time-Sharing System was one of the first time-sharing cooperation system. It was developed at the MIT Computation Center. CTSS was the first demonstrated on MIT's IBM 709 in November 1961. 1964. IBM System or the 360. The IBM system is a family of mainframe computer system that was announced by IBM on April 7, 1964 and delivered between 1965 and 1978. It was the first family of computers designed to cover the complete range of application, from small to large, both commercial and scientific. The design made a clear distinction between architecture and implementation, allowing IBM to release a suite of compatible designs at different prices. In 1960s, this became mainstream, and in 1966, many computers got cheaper, more powerful, and really useful. In 1967 to 1968, the mouse was invented. In 1964, Bill English joined IRC, where he helped Engelbart build the first mouse prototype. They christened the device or the mouse as early models, and it had a cord attached to the rear part of the device which looked like a tail, and in turn resembled the common mouse. (1969) The Unix time-sharing system from Bell Telephone Laboratories. It is a multi-processing and multi-user time-sharing operating system. Unix provides a great range of programs and services that have made the Unix system environmentally popular among users. Now let's talk about the achievements after 1970s, from ENIAC to OS. Year after year, operating system becomes more modern and advanced. Here is the list of operating system evolution from 1970 to OS. 1971, Intel announces the microprocessor. The Intel 4004 is a 4-bit central processing unit released by Intel Corporation in 1971. It was the first commercially produced microprocessor and the first in a long line of Intel CPUs. 1972, IBM comes out with VM, the Virtual Machine Operating System. VM remained an important platform within IBM, used for operating system development and time-sharing use. But for customer, it remained IBM's other operating system. 1973, Unix 4th edition is published. The operating system was originally written in assembly language, but in 1973, version 4 Unix was rewritten in C. Version 4 Unix, however, still had many PDP-11 dependent codes and was not suitable for porting. The first port to another platform was made 5 years later, 1978, for the Interdata. 1973, Ethernet. Ethernet is a way of connecting computers together in a local area network or LAN. It has been the most widely used method of linking computers together in LANs since the 1990s. The basic idea of its design is that multiple computers have access to it and can send data off at any time. 1974, the personal computer age begins. The personal computer industry really began in 1977 with the introduction of 3 pre-assembled mass-produced personal computers. Personal computer, or the PC, designed for use by only one person at a time. A typical personal computer assemblage user consists of a central processing unit, or the CPU, which contains the computer's arithmetic, logic, and control circuitry on an integrated circuit. 2 types of computer memory: main memory such as digital random access memory or the RAM, and auxiliary memory such as magnetic hard disk and special optical compact disk, or read-only memory ROM, disk, CD-ROMs, and DVD-ROMs, and various input-output devices including a display screen, keyboard and mouse, modem, and printer. 1974, Gates and Allen wrote BASIC for the Altair. Altair BASIC is the discontinued interpreter for the BASIC programming language that ran on the MIT's Altair 8800 and subsequent S100 bus computers. It was Microsoft's first product as Microsoft, distributed by MIT's under a contract. Altair BASIC was the start of the Microsoft BASIC product range. 1976, Apple II. The Apple II, styled as Apple, is an 8-bit home computer and one of the world's first highly successful mass-produced microcomputer products. It was designed primarily by Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs oversaw the development of Apple II's foam-molded plastic case, and Rod Hult developed the switching power supply. August 12, 1981, IBM introduces the IBM PC. The IBM Personal Computer Model 5150, commonly known as the IBM PC, is the first computer released in the IBM PC model line and the basis for the IBM PC compatible de facto standard. It was created by a team of engineers designers directed by Don Estridge in Boca Raton, Florida. 1983, Microsoft begins work on MS Windows. Microsoft released Windows 1.0 on November 20, 1885 as the first version of the Microsoft Windows line. It runs as a graphical 16-bit multitasking shell on top of an existing MS-DOS installation, providing an environment which can run graphical programs designed for Windows, as well as existing MS-DOS software. 1984, Apple Macintosh comes out. The original Macintosh is the first successful mass-market personal computer to have featured a graphical user interface, built-in screen and mouse. Apple sold the Macintosh alongside its popular Apple II, Apple III, and Apple Lisa families of computers until the other models were discontinued in the 1990s. 1990, Microsoft Windows 3.0 comes out. Windows 3.0 is the third major release of Microsoft Windows, launched in 1990. Like its predecessors, it is not an operating system, but rather a graphical operating environment that runs on top of the OS. It features a new graphical interface, a GUI, where applications are represented as clickable icons, as opposed to the list of files named seen in its predecessors. 1991, GNU Linux. In 1983, Richard Stallman, founder of the Free Software Foundation, set forth plans of a complete Unix line operating system called GNU, composed entirely of free software. In 1992, the first Windows virus came out. The first MS-DOS PC virus was created. It was the Brain virus from Pakistan. Brain was a boot sector virus and only infected 360K floppy disk. Interestingly, even though it was the first virus, it had full stealth capability. 1993, Windows NT. Windows NT is a family of operating system versions produced by Microsoft, the first version of which was released on July 27, 1993. It is a processor-independent, multi-processing, and multi-user operating system. The first version of Windows NT was Windows NT 3.1 and was produced for workstations and server computers. 2007, the iOS. iOS, formerly iPhone OS, is a mobile operating system created and developed by Apple Inc. exclusively for its hardware. It is the operating system that powers many of the company's mobile devices, including the iPhone and the iPod Touch. The term also included the versions running on iPads until the name iPad OS was introduced with version 13 in 2019. It's the world's second most widely installed mobile operating system. 2008, Android OS. Android is a mobile operating system based on a modified version of the Linux kernel and other open source software, designed primarily for touchscreen mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets. Android is developed by a consortium of developers known as the Open Handset Alliance and commercially sponsored by Google. It was unveiled in November 2007 with the first commercial Android device launched in September 2008. So that's all for today. Thank you for listening.